Welcome to the Leverton on Everything podcast. I'm Leverton, and this is Everything, a daily podcast where I review literally everything in usually under 10 minutes. Today I'm going to be reviewing the trilogy of the Planet of the Apes reboots, so Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes. I think that there's another one, but it doesn't really fit the whole story. I think it's a new story called Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, so I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the first three. My rating, 10 out of 10. A masterpiece of a film. I'm treating this movie as being one movie in three parts, so my review of all three parts is the same. Trilogies are often weak, and trilogies don't often make a lot of sense. The filmmakers want to make more movies, and the studios are happy to oblige if it means making more money. A good example of this is the Back to the Future trilogy, where the last two films are kind of redundant. Another example is the last Star Wars trilogy, where the finishing movie sort of destroys the goodwill that the first two films in the series had built up. But this trilogy is a true trilogy. The first film deals with the young life of the protagonist, the second deals with his middle age, and the third deals with the last act of his life. So it is possible to take all of these films as one. What do they suggest to us? The animation of the non-human is done in a really sympathetic and moving way. It's also interesting to see how the technology developed from the first movie to the last movie. Instead of talking about each individual film as something that's cut off from the others, I'm talking about all three here. The good things about these films are its plots, its special effects, and the action. It touches on big themes of man's hubris when it comes to dealing with other intelligent animals, and also the hubris that can cause catastrophe in the pursuit of money, or even just to save someone you love. It makes a person ask themselves tough and yet profound questions. For example, are you really a good person if your actions cause the deaths of billions of people? Is murder ever acceptable? I like also how there's this contrast between the main characters of Caesar and Koba. The movie presents Caesar as being a noble leader in the first and second parts, and by the end, while it is not clear to those around him, it is clear to himself that his selfishness and his desire for revenge have had more disastrous consequences for his people than the evil actions of his nemesis. The things that are bad about this series of films are so inconsequential that it is almost pointless to mention. Almost, but not entirely pointless, because it can teach us how in even perfect works of art, they're not perfect. It can teach us that even in perfect works of art, there are imperfections. That's a better way of saying that. So here are the flaws in this masterpiece. The first thing is that Caesar leads an ape rebellion in the first film, and this rebellion mainly takes place over the span of an afternoon. The apes that Caesar leads are fighting to get to one particular place. As they are walking to the battle, there is a sign which has been painted with the symbol of their rebellion, which is the window that Caesar saw from his room growing up. So there are two logical explanations for this. The first is that Caesar painted the symbol on the sign so that the other apes would know where to go, and the second is that one of the apes stole some paint and painted on the sign as they were making their way to the battle, it doesn't make, either one of those don't make much sense, because why would Caesar go and paint the sign? The other major mistake is the character of Koba. He is presented as being just as smart as Caesar, but much more violent. He is a bonobo. Bonobos are a species of great ape, like humans or chimpanzees, except they differ from their cousins in the fact that they resolve their conflicts by using sex. As a result of this, they are much less violent than humans or chimpanzees. It doesn't detract at all from the story because you have to be an expert primatologist to understand the difference between Koba and the other apes. The last mistake is not really a mistake at all, it's a storytelling choice. In the first movie, there is a human character who is quite close to Caesar. In the second movie, he is nowhere to be seen. There are two reasons. One is connected to the events of the second movie and how it would have been very unlikely that a human character could survive them. And the other is that the story isn't about the humans at all. It's about Caesar and his community, and they're growing into full humanity. In fact, none of the human characters reappear in any movie of the series. The last thing I would like to mention is again something that might seem to be a mistake, but is a stylistic choice, and that is Caesar's voice. In the first movie, he says 2 words. By the second movie, he says a few sentences. And by the last movie, he is speaking in full paragraphs. The only other ape that speaks as much as him is Koba. By the end of the series, an ape who has only used sign languages says a few sentences. This stylistic choice shows Caesar coming to grips with his humanity, not just the usefulness of human speech, but also the dark nature of being powerful. This series is a masterpiece and collectively is one of my favorite films. Yeah. I don't know what else I can say about it. It's really good. I think I can tag on a little bit of a review of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is the last film that came out. I think the first 3, I think it's like the Toy Story thing. Eventually, you don't need to continue the story. The story is finished. And I think in the first 3 films, it was finished, and they kind of made Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes just to make money, I feel. And I also feel like it happens, I think, 300 or 400 years after the events of these 3 movies. And basically, the humans have lost the power of speech because of this pandemic that happens. Crazily, it happens in this series in 2016. And I wish sci-fi movies would stop doing that, because the movie came out in 2014, right? And so these 3 movies are supposed to have finished around now. Like, it's crazy. So human civilization is supposed to have collapsed in this universe by now. Like, if they had put it like 100 years in the future, it would have been more realistic. Yeah, but anyway, so Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is some human regains the power of speech, and the apes are fighting to protect her. Like, why? Why would they care? It's like, it's like if a chimpanzee could perfectly speak. I mean, and they have like a completely different society for Mars, so we'll see. We'll see. I was really excited for that movie to come out, but ultimately it was disappointing to me. But those first 3 movies are brilliant. I think that they're some of the best sci-fi of all time. And if you want, go back and watch the original movie. It's also good. I mean, I think there's 6 or 7 of them, but the first one is good, for sure. Another thing that you might like, I have a podcast called Death by Disney, where I review Disney movies in a chronological order. Please check that out. Thanks and bye.